Well, Heat fans, Lauri Markkanen trade, it's not going to happen. Someone that we've talked about quite a bit in the past year on the channel about how he'd fit perfectly next to Jimmy and Bam, and is someone that I would have targeted in a trade to really upgrade this roster and help win a title with Jimmy Butler in the next couple seasons. Well, that is not going to happen, at least this season. And what do I mean by that? Well, Shams Charania broke the news this morning that Lauri Markkanen and the Utah Jazz are expected to agree on a massive long-term contract extension and sign it Wednesday, which is the key thing here. Because, yes, even though he signed an extension, sure, he could still get traded, and if that team wanted to pick up that contract, they could. But the reason why this is significant right now is that note of him signing it Wednesday or later. Because if he signed it today, he would have been eligible to be traded before the NBA trade deadline in February. Because whenever you sign a new contract, 6 months is the grace period where you cannot be traded. And what happens in 6 months from this August day? Well, it is the NBA trade deadline. So the fact that he's signing it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or later means after that 6 months goes, it'll be past the deadline, which makes Lauri Markkanen not able to be traded this upcoming season. Sure, he could be traded next offseason, but if you had any ideas or inclinations that Lauri Markkanen was going to be a member of the Miami Heat this year to pair up with Jimmy and Bam, that is no longer on the table. So we'll talk about what is up next for the Miami Heat in terms of other trade targets, but also players on this team that will need to step up in the absence of not being able to acquire Lauri Markkanen, which is why you need to be subscribed to the channel, because we're going to have everything covered surrounding the Miami Heat, whether it's breaking down ball, breaking down news in the NBA that affects Miami. Hit that sub button, road to 14K subs right now. Like I said, Markkanen is another trade target off the board, and we've seen quite a bit of them come off the board this offseason. Donovan Mitchell, now Lauri Markkanen. Obviously, they missed out on Dame last year, and the trade rumor mill for Miami has been relatively quiet so far, and I'm really looking at these three guys as someone who the Heat could still go after if they wanted to this offseason. Brandon Ingram is a top New Orleans player that could be off their team coming up soon because Ingram is not really in their long-term plans. We've talked about him potentially coming to Miami as well, but I don't see the Heat really going after him. Trae Young is someone that would really benefit in the Heat system to play alongside Jimmy and Bam, but he would also help Bam Adebayo take that another step offensively. Those two running a pick and roll would be very, very dynamic, and I would be all in, but after the Hawks traded DeJounte Murray, it feels unlikely that they're going to deal both of their guards. And then Kyle Kuzma is someone that I am a big fan of because of that very appetizing contract, if you will, the descending numbers going from 23 to 21 to 19 over the next 3 NBA seasons. He could be someone that would slot in also in that 4 spot next to Bam and Jimmy, who can score, can defend, but also provide some flexibility in terms of height. I think Kyle Kuzma is someone that would really work in Miami's system. But here's the thing, and it's unfortunate to say this. I just don't see anything happening. Like, as much as I can come up here and talk about how I believe the Heat need to make a trade if they want to try to contend this season with teams like Philadelphia, New York getting better, Orlando taking another step. Like, yes, I do believe a trade needs to happen, but if I know anything about this Heat organization, which I try to act like I do at least, I just know Pat Riley's not going to make a move for any of those three guys because he does not deem them needle movers, if you will, that really elevates the ceiling for this Heat roster enough to really trade away your top assets to go get them. I still think a hero for Kuzma like Swap would be really ideal for Miami, but I don't think they would go that route because they do like Tyler Hero. But let's round out the conversation here before we look at some people on this Heat roster currently that need to step up. Are you disappointed Markkanen is off the table for the Miami Heat this year? Type Y for yes or type N for no. Coming up in just a second, I am going to explain to you why the Miami Heat are actually going to be fine here in this upcoming season and the future, even though they missed out on Lauri Markkanen, and even though I believe it is very unlikely they go out and trade for one of those 3 players I mentioned in terms of Kuzma, Ingram, and Trae Young. I think 2 players on this Heat roster that you fans love at home are going to step up and help this Heat team this upcoming year. Before we do that, though, we are sponsored by Game Time, the best ticketing app, and it's the only app that I use to go to events, whether it be back home. I was just in Rochester this past week. I could use Game Time to go to concerts, comedy shows there. But when I'm in Dallas here, I can go to the Mavericks, Cowboys. I can go to the Rangers game. And if you're in Miami or wherever you are, Game Time is the best place to get your tickets. They have all-in pricing, which means you get to see the exact price that you're going to pay when you're looking at tickets. You're not going to pick your seat, go to check out, and then be like, dang, this is like $60 more than I thought it was going to be. No, you see what it's actually going to cost you when you're viewing your seat. And also, when you're viewing your seat, you can actually see the exact vantage point, so you're not going to be blindsided by a pole or something like that if you go to a Marlins game. They also have great lowest price guaranteed. If you find a seat in the same row, same area that is cheaper, Game Time will actually credit you 110% of the difference. It is the best way to get your tickets. They specialize in last-minute deals, whether you're in Miami, whether you're in Montana. Doesn't really matter where you are. Make sure you use Game Time today. Download the app today, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, use the code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. It's a full youth movement in Miami now. After, it feels like all the good trade targets for Miami is off the board, you're really going to have to rely on your younger players to take that next step. We've seen Bam Adebayo continue to grow his game offensively and just remain the best defensive player on the planet. And they've expected Tyler Hero to make that same jump, even though they haven't seen what they wanted him to do. But the two players that they're really going to be banking on to take a leap in the next 1 or 2 seasons is Nikola Jovic and Jaime Jaquez Jr. Jovic just finished up his second season in the NBA, but it was really his first after he was basically a redshirt in year 1. Jaquez obviously was an outstanding rookie out of UCLA who was on the first team all-rookie team, came onto the scene after being the 18th overall pick and really shocked people, averaging 12 points a game, and how he was able to start when other players were out, but also be an impact player that played down the stretch in close games. But the person that I think we're going to have to look at and rely on the most here to really reach the highest ceiling possible for Miami is Nikola Jovic. Jovic in year 2 did everything you could ask, was not in the rotation early on, was in the G League. Jimmy Butler goes to the G League, pines with Eric Spoelstra to get Jovic in the lineup, comes back to the Heat's main squad, ends up starting and playing in 40-plus games, and Jovic really showcased why he could be the full-time starter for Miami going forward. He's 6'11", provides size next to Bam Adebayo. Shot 39.9% from 3 last year. Helps the spacing with Jimmy and Bam, but also can facilitate and play make if needed to. You need both of those guys, and Jaime Jaquez Jr. and Nikola Jovic, to take a step. But if you really want to reach the peaks and really compete with the front courts that the Celtics have, the Knicks have, the Sixers have, you're going to need Jovic to really be that guy, and then Jaime Jaquez Jr. continue to upgrade his game from beyond the arc and defensively. I'll tell you why I believe Jovic needs to start here in just a second, but I do want to ask you this question. When talking about the two young guys that Miami is going to have to rely on this year and really the future of this team, which player do you think has the higher ceiling? If you think it's Nikola Jovic, type NJ. If you think it's Jaime Jaquez Jr., type those triple Js. I think Jaime Jaquez Jr., he could really develop into something special, but I think Nikola Jovic has the highest ceiling because we just don't see players with his skill set and compared to his height that often, right? 6'11", being able to handle the rock, sees over defenders, knows what to do with the basketball, but also can shoot 40% from 3. We've seen him really take strides in his game at the end of last year, getting to the rim. His ability to get rebounds, run the length of the floor, use his long strides, Euro step, and get to the rim for an easy finger Lay is really impressive. And to me, he needs to be the starting four. I know a lot of people are going to talk about Kel'el Ware starting. I just don't think he's ready. You start Bam at center at least this year. Let Jovic be that four again. Unless Ware somehow really outperforms him in training camp in September and in the preseason in October, there's no reason to me why Jovic shouldn't be starting at that four spot for Miami. I don't know who they start in the backcourt, but to me, it's 1,000% certain that the starting front court should be Jimmy, Jovic, Bam. Those three worked really well together last season. Jaquez can be that sixth man, or hell, he may even be that starting two guard if the Heat feel he's able to defend that position and space the floor. But either way, Jovic is going to have to take a massive step up. We've often said we don't know what his ceiling is. I've said Lauri Markkanen could be a comp. Lauri Markkanen off the board. Could Jovic turn into that guy? That remains to be seen. But make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we're bringing you daily content here on the Miami Heat. As always, we'll see you tomorrow with another video. Go Heat.